Still waiting a little bit for Nico and Karolina to join me here this morning. But in the meantime, good morning to you, Bogdan. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very fine.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And it's where are you based, Bogdan?
I'm based in Poland, in the middle of the country, actually. City will not say you too much. It's close to from Warsaw is approximately a 1 hour drive by car, and the city is called Łódź. However, it's spelled Lodz, so it's a complicated one.
I see. Maybe that's a town that Karolina is familiar with, I'm guessing, also being Polish.
Yeah, I'm from Warsaw, but I know Łódź well, and Łódź is the home of Energy Casino, isn't it, Bogdan?
Yes, it is. It is, exactly. And I'm happy to know that my former employees are actually the ones who are standing behind it. So a little bit proud of them.
Yeah, it was a great brand, and it's a great city. I actually really love it. It's in Poland. It's known for a sort of industrial city, but once you live there, you see that it's got really a lot to offer.
Yes, I agree. However, we should have a better economical and the political situation, which will favor a bit more the gaming industry. But it is how it is.
Amazing. So yeah, good morning to everyone who's here, and welcome to the iGaming breakfast chat. It's Thursday morning. Best way to wake up and have a coffee and start the day is in this very room. So thank you for being with us today, and also good morning to my lovely co-host Karolina and Nico. Nice to see you here as well. And before we get started today, as always, I want to just make sure to invite everyone who wants to join here on stage. If you'd like to join on stage, just click the little hand button, and that will basically bring you up on stage here if you would like to share with us some opinions or thoughts, or if you have some questions or whatever it might be. Today we are running this session as well without a specific topic. We will take the discussion a little bit as it goes, just like we've done the last 2 weeks. So this is a perfect opportunity for anyone who wants to contribute today to just take the leap and join us here on stage. But before we get started, Nico, good morning to you. I know that you've been hard at work researching what's happened in the industry in the last week. So tell us, what have you learned so far?
So good morning from my end as well. And as Karolina is pretty close to LeoVegas, and there are some news which are actually referring to LeoVegas, I'd just like to hand over the microphone to Karolina to walk us through what happened to LeoVegas.
Oh, sure. Apologies for background noise, but I've decided to stop being sitting at home at these sessions. I'm just taking a walk. But LeoVegas has announced that they're launching their own game studio called Blue Guru. I believe they appointed Andy Brightwhite, who is a very well-known industry game specialist and operational specialist, to run it for them, which I think is a great move. And I think it's very interesting to see more of this happening, because this is supposed to be a B2B venture as well, similarly to shared play. So I'm sure there will be certain games that are custom to Leo, and that they will use to sort of move the revenue profit margin to their side from third-party games, but they will also offer these games to other operators. So I think it does start a certain type of movement, and we see it in the US. I think in the US we're going to see more of that. And similarly, on that same note, we saw Penn National acquire an RGS and development studio, Hit Point, I think they're called. And they're also going to produce their own games. Whether that's going to be for B2B or just for themselves, I'm not sure. But generally, the trend is picking up.
Awesome. Thank you for this insight, Karolina. So what has happened as well as a breaking news, which has hit the industry yesterday, is the announcement of Caesars planning to complete the sale of all William Hill non-US assets within 1 year. So they are just focusing on all the US related stuff of William Hill, and they are literally selling all the other premises, which includes the retail shops, etc. So
Surprise, surprise.
so we are all thrilled to actually see who's gaining or lining up his own company to actually buy those retail shops. So on the M&A side, what has happened? Catena Media Group bought the lineups.com for roughly 40 million US dollars, and Better Collective acquired the US sports betting media action network for roughly 240 million US dollars. So we can see that although companies are pretty much dealing with filing their balances and filing their numbers, they are still buying or diversifying their portfolio. It's interesting to see that every week we can at least announce 1 or 2 big acquisitions, which just literally shows that our overall industry seems to have deep pockets. From a legal point of view, the EGBA claims that the German turnover tax violates European law, but this is something which Robert and me will discuss in more detail during our tomorrow's lined up power hour, which will start at 3 o'clock and is nicely hosted by iGaming Next. And I would like to hand over the microphone to Pierre again.
Brilliant, Nico. Thank you for that update. And yes, definitely looking forward to the great panel that you are having tomorrow, Nico, with Robert on the German regulation. That's obviously right, super hot topic right now. And on that note, we mentioned LeoVegas here recently, and they obviously released their quarterly report this morning. And even though they posted an uptick in revenue and uptick in EBITDA since the Q1 last year, the shares have still fallen something like, I think it was like 11 or 12% so far today. Obviously, this seems to be mainly due to the German market, as revenues are sharply declining for LeoVegas here on quarter basis. And LeoVegas are attributing this to that they are estimating that 70 to 80% of the German market for casino has temporarily shifted to operators that have chosen not to adopt the coming regulations. Now,
Surprise.
yeah, now this is obviously if this is true, this is obviously a massive failure on behalf of the German regulator. But Nico, what do you think? Do you think this estimation is correct by LeoVegas, and what do you make of it?
So I'm pretty confident that this this statement by LeoVegas is correct. So what we see from other insiders that the overall revenue pretty much stayed the same, but how this revenue is split has changed. So it significantly shifted, first of all, towards company not following the regulation, or companies which are licensed or which are using their Curaçao license. And in the end, it's pretty simple to understand. For a customer, it's just one click to actually shift towards another operator. So, but as said, this is something which Robert and me will discuss in more detail tomorrow. But from our point of view and the numbers we are seeing, it's true.
We're going to have Richard Carter also joining on a podcast in a couple of weeks, so we can ask him some questions, given that Bragg owns Oryx Gaming, a key player in the German market. Maybe he can give us some insights from their perspective as well.
Absolutely, that would be super interesting, Karolina. Looking forward to follow up on that. And yes, Nico, like you're saying, more details on this will come tomorrow in the iGaming Next Power Hour. So don't make sure to not miss out. I wanted to kind of stay on the LeoVegas here a little bit longer, actually, because even though they released the quarterly report to the dismay of the shareholders today, it was still a lot of interesting things that come from LeoVegas, I think. And obviously, Gears of Leo investing in Karolina's company, SharedPlay, being one of them. LeoVegas clearly sees the future of social casino as being something they want to invest in and be kind of early adopters too. But something else that they are doing as well is the fact that they just announced the other day that they are launching their own in-house game studio, which basically plans to release, I think they said something like 20 exclusive games within 2 years, basically. So this begs a little bit the question, are we seeing kind of a new trend emerging here with releasing exclusive titles as an operator, and will we expect more operators to kind of acquire game studios or start their own game studios? What does the panel think? Perhaps Bogdan, do you have any thoughts here? Anything to chime in with?
Well, yes, actually, this is I would say, a normal move and something what has been discussed within the industry for quite some time. I mean, being working as an operator and also working close with the game studio I've been part of, and also creating the games, I can for sure say that there is a demand from the leading operators, but also from even from the small ones, from existing ones. They would like to have game titles or the games which they believe will give them an advantage. Advantage not only because they will simply get all the profits or nearly all the profits from the respective title, but bear in mind that in every online casino or any gaming company which has an online casino, there is a big knowledge and also big interest in the innovation, but also in the game titles, which can bring both fun, excitement for the player, but also give to the company the freedom of unleashing their own ideas and translating them into the game. It is pretty hard. We've seen in the past some movements like Yggdrasil did with kind of white labeling their game engine to other parties, but that's the halfway. The best way forward is actually what LeoVegas did, and also some others are having in pipe, having their own game studio, working on the titles and bringing to life the games which have been in a long time as an idea, and right now they have a power to actually bring them to their own brand. There is also a big aspect of having their own game that builds their company reputation. It shows for the new clients that this is not only an online casino, but also profitable and a good game producing studio. So that is an aspect which needs to be considered and will be considered in the future by many companies out there. And the other aspect which you have been touching on, Pierre, is the social casino. Well, this is something where where I can also say a little bit of, because I've been cooperating with one of the, without mentioning the name, with one of the leading social casinos, and this is not only a channel which will allow the customers to translate into the real casino customers, the real online casino customers, but it is also a completely new channel and a completely new way of generating the profits in the markets where you might find hard to actually launch your business for various reasons, not only the legislation, not only the licensing issues, but you can get hold of the customers who are, believe me or not, but spend the money for getting a better skin, better looking character, some achievements, compete in the various tournaments. This is something what actually I found very, very weird from one perspective, as this is social casino does not allow you to actually win any money, because that's not the concept of a social casino. Yes, you do have possibilities of winning some prizes, but they are not monetary prizes. In some extents, depending on the geo and depending on the country, you might even win real prizes. Like, for instance, you can win a trip to your favorite vacation destination, etc. But you are not able to actually win anything like you can in the online casino. What you can win is your status, being listed on the leaderboard as a number 1 or number top 10, whatever it will be. But that is due to these micro payments which are associated within the social casino, and due to the strife and the competition which is associated there. There is a big interest among the customers who are not necessarily the ones who are willing to play in the online casino, but you're going to find there a lot of housewives, without being, harsh, or without thinking about anything bad about women, but they are simply having fun. They are competing with each other. You're going to find some bored elderly people who find this very, very entertaining. So this is a completely new channel and some sort of a new wink for the companies who decided to go that way. Although they will not have an easy road. I would expect that they will have some bumpy roads, for the very simple reason. In order to offer a successful social casino, you need to get rid of your typical online casino habits. So you need to find a good balance between those two products, those two businesses. But looking forward, I will expect to see more brands who invest into the social casino. Well, we see already that there are many, maybe not many, but on the German side, and I think, Nico, you can confirm that you're going to find a big game producer who is also invested a heck a lot of money in offering his games in the social casino very successfully. So that is the trend which I think we're going to see in the next coming years.
If I can
add... Yes, Karolina, we'd love to hear your opinion here. Feel free.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I wanted to add to the sort of opening own studios and creating own games. I think there are very clear economical reasons why companies are doing this and should be doing this. I mean, when we look at the games market at the moment, it's becoming very clear that it is the big IPs and the very well-known sort of providers or titles that are taking the top spots and top visibility when the games are being released. But the lifetime of the games is short at the moment, and the games are quickly replaced by new games that are coming up. But a fair amount of revenues is still going to so-called gap fillers, and those games, their performance is very strongly affected by the actual promotional effort behind them, marketing effort, and positioning on site. So if you think about it, if you can influence it to that aspect, to that extent, it makes sense to be pushing your own games where you don't have to pay rev share at the level you have to do with third-party games. You don't have to pay middleman fees to aggregators who are hosting those games and distributing them to you. So there's really a lot of savings that can be done with their own games. I don't think that operators' own games are going to replace the sort of blockbuster releases, because that's quite hard to do, and the amount of money that is invested in those games is difficult to do for an operator that doesn't have a scale of distribution. But in terms of gap fillers and creating custom titles, which is a big differentiation for operators right now, and especially when you're a multi-brand company and you can achieve some kind of scale, and then offering them to the market on B2B, that's a secondary goal, I guess, but it can also create great revenue, especially from companies that have proven track of their field when they're creating games. To add on the social casino side, I mean, I could talk about it for a while, but just to clarify, what we are doing and what LeoVegas invested in is not a social casino. We are bringing social elements to the real money gaming casino. But you're right, Bogdan, on the rise of interest in social casino side. I've seen it from many operators, either trying to enter the social casino scene or trying to bridge the gap between their offerings and elevate the level of cross-sell between the brands. And I think the biggest opportunity for that is in the US, where people are playing social casinos on a massive scale and have been for years. It's been driven largely to the fact that there was no online regulated market. So in many states, that was the only type of casino experience for those who weren't aware of black market offerings or didn't want to go black market. So I think we're going to see more and more. And I think it's going to refresh the scene of social casinos, because I personally think while it's a different product, it could benefit from some elements from real money gaming, and especially when it comes to porting real money gaming titles, the blockbusters, into social setting. This is quite difficult to do at the moment because most social casinos, or all of them, are built in native, and the demand for the games is in the native language as well, which is a high cost for a third-party developer to develop another instance of games, not HTML5, but native. But I think it's the size of the opportunity will push some operators, some third parties to create games for social casinos. And once you see the mega waves, the big net and releases, quick spins of this world in social casinos, it can really change the scene vastly.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you, Karolina. Bogdan, any follow-up comments on Karolina?
Well, actually, not really. I agree also with this, what Karolina said. And as I mentioned on the very, very beginning, this creation of their own games will simply be a revenue driver for some of the operators who are having their own games. For this simple reason, they will not have to share the revenues and keep everything for them. But of course, you can't replace all the games, and you can't. You have to be very careful with this. So if you're going to promote and push too hard for your own games, then simply it's going to be perceived by the customers as one-way road. So that is definitely not something what you demand. And as just a little comment on the social casino, this is what you said, Karolina. Yes, of course, the US market is very mature when it comes to the social casino, but we don't have to be ashamed, and we are not that far behind when it comes to the European brands. And also we've seen kind of very active and proactive operations from the social casino here in Europe, and I'm happy actually to see that they are pretty nice when it comes in finding the ways of getting to a new customers. And the big sort of competition aspect which they put into social casino, that is something what proven to be a good concept. And I've been having a discussion with a couple of operators from the online gaming industry, actually pointing them to some of the solutions which should be a quite nice journey for existing online casino operators. So that is definitely something what both worlds can share from and gain from. And I think if we adopt some of the offerings which social casino has currently, that might be very interesting for the existing customers of online casinos in their journey, which, as we all very well know, everybody is looking for to increase customer engagement. And when you study and you look a little bit closer to the social casino, you're going to see that they actually did a pretty decent job in making this concept successful.
I think what's going to be a challenge with social casinos for the real money gaming brands is that you can't operate in isolation from what you're doing on real money, and regulations and responsible gaming responsibility is not really translated into social too much at this point. And I mean, because there is no regulation that enforces this on them. But if a real money gaming operator that prides themselves on zero harm revenues, for example, or really championing responsible gaming wants to enter the social casino space, it will be difficult, because from my research and work with previous customers, from what I understood, and maybe you can correct me, Bogdan, but social casinos largely rely on whale type of players and VAPs. And it might seem, as a weird statement, because you can't win money in social casino, but you can still lose money in social casino. And there is no regulation on how much you can lose. And there is no source of funds type of regulation where you have to ask people where the money is coming from. So there is a lot of social casinos that are not championing responsible social gaming. And I think that's going to have to change if real money gaming operators are going to want to enter the space.
Yes, I agree. However, if you look on the regulation in various countries, there is actually that, I would say, a gray gap, which is perfectly used and filled by social casinos. So in a sense, you are right that they are not actually going the path which the industry, well, in the ideal world, we would like to witness when it comes to the responsible gaming. But what they are doing, they're utilizing their opportunity of making money on micropayments, and actually giving the customers a fun, because they are not forcing you to deposit. Okay, you're going to get some information that you are out of your coins, and you can refill it. You get this daily or weekly offers where you can top up your coin account. But mainly this is the aspect which customers like, and something which they want to kind of immerse themselves in this virtual world and build their own character just for fun. Yeah, but yes, losing the money at the same time. You said this very, very correctly. So in some countries, I think at least this what I have been witnessing, and also Poland is quite a good example here. There is a big interest from the Ministry of Finance when it comes to the social casino, and some of the social casinos has been put on a blacklist already, even though they are not 100% falling under their regulation, but they've been putting there anyway. So this shows that also the authorities are seeing this, and if you look on the financial aspect, they are real money makers, and I've been seeing one offer from the social casino site who has been put on for sale a couple of months ago, and the bid price started from 500 million euro. So that is definitely the concept which proved to be effective, and a concept which, even though staying in the shadow of an online casino gambling industry in a way, it shows the strength and the muscles. So that's why the other sharks from our industry are interested in this, and I'm not surprised. That's a natural step.
I agree on the opportunity here. I'm just saying that in terms of some of the valuations, and when you've seen huge going IPO and being hugely oversubscribed. If you were going to look at regulating this industry, because I know of many social casino brands that have customers that spend 150,000 euros, dollars a month, and in excess of that would not sustain once regulation starts to touch social casinos. So I think, and for them, it's much more difficult to make their margins on mass, because it's the masses that largely don't spend the money in social casinos. So if you eliminate the high rollers that are putting way too much according to real money sort of limits, then it becomes a really challenging business if you don't have the scale and you have not invested millions in marketing and player acquisition.
Yes, agree. But if you look on, for instance, German market, but not only German market, also in the UK, you see that they are pumping quite a lot of money into the marketing. So we see this already. I've seen this from a couple of years, and I'm not surprised. And even though if the VIPs are driving a significant part of the revenue, I also seen some statistics and some reports from let's say general customers from the normal Joes and Janes, and they are also impressive. Something what we could be in some aspects envy when it comes to the online casinos.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, guys. Really interesting to hear the latest and greatest of the social casino trend here. That is obviously really hot at the moment. Just to kind of do a little reset here in general, I just wanted to again welcome everyone to the iGaming Breakfast chat this morning. And anyone who would like to join us here on stage, just feel free to put up your hand. We have been discussing social casino here for the last 20 or so minutes, but we are very open to kind of bring up new topics and questions or whatever you might have here. So don't feel scared. Feel free to put up your hand, and we'll welcome you on stage. Robin, good morning to you. How are you doing?
Good morning, Pierre. I'm fine, thank you. Just came off an awesome show and tell session for product in Ichiban this morning. A lot of exciting MVPs and POCs, and we're getting really close to some really innovative features. And then I realized I missed your Clubhouse. I just joined in here now to listen in, and before I knew it, I got an invitation to be a speaker. So trying to get my head around what you guys are talking about and how I can help.
Brilliant, Robin. Yes, the Clubhouse session here much more important than the product meeting. So we appreciate that that you see the importance of this room today. No, to summarize a bit, we've been talking a little bit about the news that has been in the industry over the last week. Particularly, we focus a little bit on the LeoVegas quarterly report here that came out that had some really interesting news in general. Partly because the market obviously reacted really negatively to the report. With I think they are down something like 12% so far today, although they are posting positive EBITDA gains and revenue gains over the same quarter last year. However, they have been decreasing their EBITDA and revenue over quarter on quarter, mainly because of Germany. So Robin, perhaps you'd like to chime in a little bit to hear what you think about kind of the dependency on Germany and how you see that market moving forward, and your view in general on these type of markets.
If you take the LeoVegas report first, because I just scrolled through it, as you know, Pierre, because before the Q4 report, I day traded LeoVegas. Basically, I bought shares the day before they released the report, and I sold them the day afterwards. And as I shared with you guys in advance of that tip, the reason for that was because I didn't think the market had priced in Germany correctly. Back then, Betsson had just released the report, and the market got really negative. And then they didn't realize that in Q4, right, the most important changes to the German regulation would actually only take effect on the 15th of December, meaning you had almost the entire quarter without those effects. Naturally, with COVID and Q4 and whatnot, I believed that LeoVegas would have a really strong report. And therefore, I thought the price would go up because they hadn't really gotten that COVID effect and that Q4 effect on the share price. And I was right, they did. But the flip side of that is obviously that Q1 would be a really bad report, because then you have the entire quarter with those German changes going into it. And we were right in the sense that they released numbers this morning, and they weren't perhaps as bad as many industry experts would have assumed, but they were worse than what the market would have assumed. That sort of were positively surprised by the Q4. And I think what is interesting to see in that report is obviously the rest of the world growing, and Canada is a large part of that. LeoVegas has been killing it in Canada for the last 1.5 years now. I know because I just hired the previous LeoVegas country manager in Canada, Steve Spindler. And the problem is there that, as we all know, there has recently been some changes. You now can't promote evolution games, meaning also NetEnt and Red Tiger these days, in basically half of the country. And in Q1 next year, there is coming regulation to Canada as well. So those revenues are also a bit short to midterm-esque. And therefore, I'm a bit skeptical overall at the moment. What was positive is that they're growing in Spain and Italy. However, as we know, in Spain, prior to COVID, there was marches in the streets against privatization of gambling, and the government was expected to really sort of enforce stronger gambling regulations. And Italy is a different case. So I'm a bit on the fence on the whole LeoVegas case and how that is moving. But really strong company, performing really, really well, but facing a lot of regulatory headwinds.
Thanks, Robin. A lot of movements happening right now, and and the markets shifting and trends shifting in the industry. So on that note, I mean, Robin, you also predicted. I remember you told me in the beginning of the year that you thought that there has to be a strong quarterly report coming up from Catena Media. You particularly mentioned that you really believed that they would have strong performance, and as it turned out, they obviously outperformed everyone's expectation, and the share price has been really on the uptick since the beginning of the year and Catena Media. So, Robin, if I may, I'll call you Mystic Robin from here. And on that note, can you make some predictions? Who you think will be the winners and losers as we go forward now?
Don't hold me accountable though if you place your money. However, like I'm day trading the the iGaming industry based on obviously thinking we know more than the market. So you know what? I think there is a couple of companies that are still very, very interesting and undervalued, and Catena Media being one of them. I've been quite negative to Catena Media over the last 3-4 years because I think they did a bunch of acquisitions they shouldn't have done, and I think the whole company was not integrated well enough and had too little SEO and tech knowledge. However, they did some very smart acquisitions as well over in the US and with AskGamblers and what have you. And Pierre started a consolidation project, and they started addressing some of those concerns in-house, and are today a much more focused company. And if you look at the assets they have in the US and so forth, they're in a really good position together with Better Collective and with the lifetime values and the FTD volumes that you have in that market and the willingness to spend money on marketing, then I think the market still haven't fully appreciated where that company will hopefully go. So I think that is certainly a good tip. And then I think Gig. Currently not a shareholder. I was going to buy before the presentation, but freaking forgot which date it came out on, and the market was closed by the time I reached my broker. And they obviously came with a strong report. I still think that there is more deals to be signed on Gig in maybe not too in a pretty near term. And I haven't checked the share price today, but going at 21, 22, I wouldn't be surprised if you see that one closer to 30 from Q2 and onwards. However, how that Q2 report will look like, I don't know, and what will happen, but it should at least start to go towards the 30 mark, I think, before that report, fueled by some news.
So, Robin, touching down on your statement on the Catena Media, what's your thought on the latest acquisition of lineups.com, which they did in the US just this week or last week?
I don't know lineups well enough to comment on that specifically, but in general, it shows you where the company wants to go, right? Which is to produce genuinely value-accretive content in the US for a market that is in full discovery mode. And that, I think, is the right strategic direction, but how well they can monetize it and sort of which commercial benefit it would have immediately, I don't know. But I think they're going in the right direction with it.
Also interesting to hear your opinion a little bit more, Robin, on the kind of the rising stars here since the last quarter in regards to Kindred and Evolution. Evolution obviously been exponentially growing for the last couple of years, but Kindred more recently is an organization who have really risen to the top in the Swedish stock market forums and stuff like that. Do you believe as well that you'll see kind of Kindred as emerging as one of the top operators going forward in the future? And what do you think also of Evolution?
Both are fantastic. Both Evolution at 200 a while back, and I must say I'm pretty happy with the company. Now, starting with Kindred, they're simply an awesome company. They're a great company. Everything they do is really well done. I know so many people that works there, and I met basically half of the C-level management they had over the last decade, and they just continue to impress me. And I don't know if you recall, Pierre, but we had a podcast where we discussed sort of the future trends of sports betting, and this CEO of Entain moving to Dazen and so forth. And we discussed how the future of sports betting might look like. We explained that I don't think there's a point for people to use a sort of mobile interface as a secondary device while they are watching a sport event unfold on the screen, right? Why shouldn't just whoever will have those sports rights, Amazon or Facebook in the future, why shouldn't they just have like a tab you can click and then you can open like a betting panel directly on the stream? And guess what? I think you shared a LinkedIn post. Kindred came with just that product. It shows how innovative they are as well. They're not only innovative on the product side, they're also innovative on the marketing side. They're innovative sort of on their ethical side, and they are investing into new ventures and so forth, which keeps them close to these new emerging technologies and which keeps innovation pace and going in the company. In general, they're really solid and structured in everything they do, so I can't understand why that company wouldn't have a bright future. But what I think will happen is that they will be acquired. And initially, when they went into the US, I couldn't understand, what Manuel and the guys were doing. I had a chat with Manuel because he was looking at the platform providers at the time, and he mentioned how perhaps they would eventually move in with their own platform. For now, it was just taking sort of a small step into the market and so forth. But perhaps it is because they simply want them to make themselves viable. They don't want to lose the US market. They don't want to become a tier 1 operator, but perhaps they're happy being a tier C or tier B, but at least they're in the game. They're following the trends. They're making themselves relevant to that market, and perhaps they will be acquired by somebody there. It's at least a company. If I was a very well capitalized US spec or some sort of land-based casino group or something, it's a company I would strongly look at to acquire if I wanted to turn that into a US operation. So I think they're very interesting. When it comes to Evolution, I think share price is really, really high, but the company is really, really strong. And you're taking a bet on them being able to make more acquisitions of perhaps even also moving into other verticals such as platforms, such as sports betting within a year or two. I think if you're buying that share, but still strong growth.
I think Robin had you had a call.
Share price. Yeah, I just declined it. Really good outlook, I think, for Evolution as well. The question is just.
I gotta do a plug-in here, saying that we've just confirmed Kindred Brit to come on a podcast in a couple of weeks. So I'm not sure how many questions she'll be able to answer, but hopefully she's going to be able to talk about the innovation and the new product releases and where they're going and how they're set up for this. So for all of you that are interested in Kindred, stay tuned.
Yeah, that was a long monologue, Pierre. I guess I concluded there. I'm still bullish on Evolution.
Yeah, very interesting. Robin, super interesting to hear actually, and I must say, when we did our podcast, Robin, you mentioned the fact that Chase Segev, moving to Dazen and speculation of them integrating overlay sports betting into their streaming software. it just sparked this thought in my head that we have since then just discussed in so many podcasts and so many discussions, even in here on Clubhouse. And just like predicted, like you said, Robin, Kindred now launched kind of the first step. They were kind of the first movers now in this space. So really interesting to see if others will follow suit here as well. And also interesting to hear your thoughts on evolution. And to your point here that you're saying that we are banking on more acquisitions, more M&A activity from evolution, and potentially, would they move into the sports betting segment? And Todd Haushalter, the CPO, he has not ruled out anything, which he has said publicly as well. And he doesn't even rule out the possibility of going land-based as evolution either. These are ideas that he is keen on looking at. So that just goes to show kind of the open-mindedness that evolution has. Also it'd be interesting to see how that company will develop, because seemingly they are unstoppable right now, and they don't have any clear contender in the near term who would be able to kind of take their space. So it'll be interesting to see how it develops. What do you think, Ruben?
I disagree slightly that they don't have a near contender. I just saw a release from Unibet saying that they're building a new dedicated studio with pragmatic play. And although it is nothing that can sort of be compared yet to the share of wallet and the brand awareness of Evolution games, then the product is starting to come really close, and the price point is lower, and more and more companies are signing them up, and they're growing really fast. And I think somebody pointed out that I think the last report was a 68 or 69% EBITDA margin or something, and both their clients and competitors are taking notice of that. So I think you will see increased investment from the competitors as well. There's many people that would be willing to operate on a 30% EBITDA margin.
Yeah, I mean, incredible EBITDA margin, something like 70% or whatever Evolution posted. I mean, just amazing. I think as well, something that Todd pointed out on this question and what can disrupt Evolution is the fact that he thinks that, yes, in the long term, you might see competitors rising up, for example, Pragmatic and others, but it's just going to take time to build all that infrastructure. And I guess that is the difference from being a game studio to being a live casino product, let's say. Tim, good morning to you, and anything to chime in with here?
Morning, Pierre. Morning, everyone. The one interesting point, following on from Robin here, when we look at Evolution and who the potential competitors are, I think there's another side of the coin we need to consider. And I was talking to someone last night, the CFO of a big tier 1 operator. They are now calculating how much share of wallet from a supplier side Evolution has. So Evolution, Red Tiger, NetEnt, Big Time Gaming, it's creeping up to some people, mid 50% of their activity comes from Evolution, which could be considered an unhealthy supply from one single operator. So I know there are people out there worrying about this lack of diversification of suppliers, which takes away competitiveness, obviously, and perhaps they're now starting, the competition is actually people or operators wanting to be more diversified in their supply of games. So if Evolution keep on acquiring X, Y, and Z studios, will there be a natural hesitance from CFOs of those operators to think we can't be that reliant on one single supplier, and perhaps we need to be really careful and diversify our supply even more, just to make sure it's a level playing field. Otherwise, it could be too heavily swayed on one side. So there are certainly conversations going on in the background about how much they will allow Evolution to supply to their operation, and that's going to be sort of a competitive streak in there as well, no doubt.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you, Tim. Robin, any closing thoughts on this topic?
No, I think Tim made a really interesting point there. Actually, when I start to calculate the combined share of wallet of Red Tiger and Big Time Gaming and NetEnt and Evolution, then I'm really reliant on a good relationship with Martin and Sebastian. So I need to start thinking about that.
Yeah, interesting consideration in general for the operators, of course, being on good foot with evolution. Jumping from one topic to the other here, I see that we have Liesbeth joining us on stage, and Liesbeth, Sustainability Manager of Aspire Global. Aspire obviously releasing a fantastic quarterly report, by the way. Congratulations to that. And the share price is looking positive. And Liesbeth, you released an article in EDR, I saw just yesterday or the day before here on betting on sustainability. Do you want to guide us through a little bit what the article was about and where you see Aspire Global heading?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Yes, I think the article, it was mostly focused on environmental sustainability, because what we speak a lot about in our industry is the safe user experience, responsible gambling, and obviously that's at the heart of sustainability. That's where a lot of concerns are when we're offering our products and services. But I don't think we should not look or pay less attention to the environmental sustainability. There's a lot we can do here, even though we're in an industry where we offer an immaterial product as such. There is still a lot around offering and creating the product that uses energy, like the big server farms we're using to host all the data on, to make sure that everyone has fast access and can play their games. The amount of business travel being done normally by employees. And this article is also a bit to make us think and reflect about the lessons learned during COVID, where we haven't been traveling at all almost. Previously we saw like employees weekly, monthly basis flying into the different offices at different conferences all around Europe and the world. And has this actually proven to be necessary? Has that been essential? How has it impacted? Have we this year not been able to do certain deals because we couldn't physically go to a location and negotiate? Or has it all been able to do from your desk? So I think this is fun and good things to consider about. At Aspire, we have committed to become carbon neutral, which means that we want zero CO2, and we aim to reduce ourselves and see how we can be more aware and energy efficient ourselves, and also partly you can offset. So this is a goal we set very shortly. I think in the industry you can relatively soon reach that goal. And yeah, there are some companies that are doing it, and some have like far-reaching goals. I saw some like 2050, which I argue like this is too long. We can definitely do better.
Brilliant. Interesting, Liesbeth. And a question for you as well is, as a listed organization, how important and how much pressure does the shareholders put on you to do the right thing in terms of sustainability? How important is it for a listed organization to be sustainable?
Well, first of all, being listed on the Nasdaq, this is a requirement of the stock market to have a sustainability policy, to do regular reporting. We have a Nasdaq database where we insert all the data every year, and they are also tracking us, are in discussions with the company, like how we can do better. And there are many investors, and especially when it comes to more institutional investors that do invest in gambling stocks, that this is just part of due diligence to look into what the strategy and reporting is.
Cool, thank you so much for that. Thank you, Liesbeth. And for those of you who hasn't checked out the article yet, you can go to EGR, for those of you who are subscribers there, and check out Liesbeth's article on betting on sustainability. Very interesting. Moving on to something else, Tim, I want to get back to you a little bit here. Just as a general question here, Tim, what's kind of your, how can I define this question? Like, what's on your mind as pressing issues in the industry when it comes to navigating Coingaming Group and your investments in the industry right now? Is there anything that you see as potential paradigm shifts or anything that is that you are paying particular attention to in the industry right now?
Yeah, the big one for me, not so much from Coingaming, but on the investment side, is the amount of noise and chatter around why don't you take this to reverse SPAC and take it to the American market, and we can raise 50 million, or X, Y, and Z can raise 50 million, and we can do this and do that. And I think there's a very short-term perspective about, yes, it's lovely to go and raise money and get listed in Toronto or NASDAQ and have this IPO and have this float and raise ridiculous amounts of money into that market. But people aren't really considering the effect of being a public company in the gaming industry, and it's nearly short-term money grab. Sounds great, but don't forget, people need to run a business, and the American market, it's all bells and whistles at the moment. There's money flying everywhere, but it's going to be one of the most regulated markets in the world, and you're going to need an army of lawyers and compliance officers to navigate the minefield of what 50 states in America is going to be. So whilst it's great, and I saw obviously the Better Collective went and spent 240 million acquiring someone the other day, and someone else acquired someone from 40 million, but is it really what the purpose of everyone, trying to run a business? Is everyone really ready to jump into this this legal minefield of the American market? And you still got to operate that business, and I don't think all companies are ready to operate within the constraints of a highly regulated market like this. So whilst it may sound nice to do your reverse SPAC and get the money in IPO, that's just the first chapter in the book. There's still another 37 chapters. You've got to run a business. You've got to produce revenues. You've got to generate revenues. You've got to produce EBITDA. You've got to be operating, you're looking from a live dealer perspective, you'd need to have a studio in every state that you operate in. It's hard enough for operating one studio in one country or one state, let alone having to try and replicate that across many states, because that's what the regulation requires. So yes, it's a very, very hot market in America. There's a lot of money going around. There's a lot of potentials, but you still need to run and operate the business, and you need to be very, very sure that you're ready to take that shift in mentality to operate within that structure. And I don't think a lot of the European operators are ready for that kind of cultural shift. Even though the spoils of the great American dream are certainly there and on the mindset of a lot of people currently.
Can I just add something to that, Pierre? Because
Robin, go ahead, and then Peter Paul after.
Yeah, I obviously have been both listed and going into the US, and it is absolutely true what Tim is saying. And just to sort of give you guys some flavor on the regulation there. So when we set up our dedicated platform infrastructure there, it was literally people going around with notepads in their hands and pencils, manually timing processes and so forth in the back office, referencing sort of how Vegas is still based on CD-ROMs, where there is an officer coming, breaking a seal and collecting a CD every day with the activity. Now, it might have come further than that at this stage, but point is that it is a market where it is incredibly regulated from sort of a protocol level and from the technical compliance level. And it is so tough to operate there, so tough. We're talking about continuous integration, continuous deploy, and so forth on the platform side or in the technology side. Literally, that would drive the regulators nuts, because they were used to coming around every 3 months or so, doing a check and getting a dump of every sort of change you've done in the change log, and so that they could go and test it manually, So you're talking about an entirely different setup there. And what I believe that many people is doing in the US at the moment is simply that they're aiming for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 states. They're getting a spec deal, they're getting listed in order to raise the capital required in order to succeed there. They're not so worried about profitability. They just see the market growth and will want to have a small slice of it. And then they are hoping to see some sort of similar consolidation as what we saw in Europe, where companies that actually has that legal army that Tim was talking about will eventually pick them up. And I think you're going to see a lot of that activity. That is quite interesting as a business case, but it's very tough to pull it off, and you need operational excellence at every level.
And to that extent, Robin, I think enough people struggle to operate in the European markets. Obviously Curacao is a little bit less regulated than Malta, but I think people struggle with Malta. I think people struggle with the UKGC. It's a hard environment to sort of navigate as it is at the moment. Imagine then having Uncle Sam watching over what you're doing and trying to run a business on the tight margins we already face in Europe, given all the affiliate, the affiliates taking so much and trying to run the business. Imagine then what happens in America. It's not all bells and whistles, in my opinion. And I start looking at. I'm a big lover of the grey markets, which are pre-regulated, and I welcome regulation. Don't get me wrong, and we're applying for a Brazilian license ourselves, and we're enjoying being a part of that conversation. But it's much easier to operate in a pre-regulated market and then welcome regulation and try and be a part of that story when regulation comes in. But I never want to go to a highly our DNA is just not a highly regulated market. We're not a Skybet. We're not a Tipico. And the interesting one might have been talked about earlier, but Tipico have lost, from what I heard, 50 to 75% of their turnover adhering to the 1st of July rules and compliance. I mean, that's a massive shift by trying to be compliant, and I'm for it, but it's going to be a very big cultural shift towards how the iGaming industry operates, and it's going to be a real barrier between completely regulated and working within pre-regulated markets moving forward.
Peter Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, so I hello everyone. I largely agree with what Tim just said and Robin said before. So we went in my previous role. I went to the U.S. market as well. It's a very much a state-by-state approach that you need to have. Every state has its own regulatory system, and it's all different from one state to the other. The lobbying has to be done on a state level next to the federal lobby that you also need to have in place. And then the financial regulations and financial probity regulations are extremely strict. The disclosure requirements are, compared to the European disclosure requirements, are quite extensive. I mean, you have to divulge everything up until the larger shareholders' details. Everything has to be divulged. So it's not something that you should lightheartedly do. And I think that from a regulatory perspective, there is a growing problem that I would like to highlight here, and that's the fact that due to the banks being shyer every day, and they're shying away from the gambling industry. You see that gambling companies, even listed gambling companies that have licenses in several European countries, are getting increasingly unbanked, and this is a real problem. And the problem was addressed by BOS, by Gustav Hofstede in an article earlier this week, or I think last week. But this is something that the industry needs to nip in the bud, because if we can't get any, if the industry can't get any bank accounts to start with, this will be the nail in the coffin of the industry. So this is something that is really worrying me on the regulatory side in Europe.
Interesting. Thank you for chiming in on that, Peter Paul. And obviously a lot of considerations here. And it seems that, to summarize the discussion on the US and kind of state by state basis, it seems to be a market for the big boys, basically, or the big girls, let's say. And it's going to be challenging for the kind of tier 2, tier 3 operators to establish themselves in the US in a meaningful way without kind of exposing their organizations financially. So interesting to hear that. Thank you, Tim, Robin, and Peter Paul. Before we close things off today, we are closing in on the hour here. I see Alexandre, you're on stage today. We're gonna meet in a couple of hours, actually, Alexandre, for a incredibly interesting podcast that we have together. But before that, anything that you'd like to chime in with here as well as a last topic of today?
Hi, Pierre. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I was jumping on my seat when I was listening to Tim. I love the expression pre-regulated market. I mean, it's sweet. It's really sweet. I've worked in both spectrums, UKGC, a regulated operation, Slots Million. I think I've been through 5 audits, managed to don't get a fine, and nor the hassle of a very highly regulated operation. Just something that Peter Paul said about banks, what we see also in Curacao on the other side of the spectrum, is that these guys want not to put in place a proper regulation because the Netherlands are pushing them, but they want to also take a tax on GGR, and they have zero bank, and Visa and MasterCard don't allow 7995 transaction to Curacao. So there's nothing there, and I'm a little bit concerned, to be honest, what's going to happen to this license before the end of the year, because this new regulation should be enforced in June, and it seems that Europe is putting a lot of pressure, and nothing is happening. And when you talk to local iGaming industry, whatever people there, I say whatever because they're regulation people, you really seem they don't have a clue. And last thing, we do have an evolution problem. I mean, we've seen it on an operational level. How to say that? Yes, I mean, Red Tiger, NetEnt, Izugi, Evolution, Big Time Gaming now. They own a big portfolio of the games that we use as an operator or that we resell as an aggregator. And what we've noticed is, I mean, like everyone else, the brutal takeover on NetEnt, where we all have friends that were working there, and we've heard what happened and the way they did it. And I think it shocked a lot of people in the industry, and I think it even shocked people from Evolution that stayed there and that have seen the rampage. When you talk with people, you really have this strange feeling that something that's not fair, let's say, happened like right before Christmas. That's one thing. And now on the other side, what we see is that with NetEnt, for example, when we have an outage and we have 10 people in a Skype group, it takes 48, 72 hours for them to answer. And obviously because they fired everyone. And that was predicted by some people that were there. Said, I don't know how they're going to run the platform. There's nobody left. And indeed, 6 months after, we see it. I mean, we see the consequences. The good thing, would be that now, talking about pre-regulated market with NetEnt, I mean, you have a lot of countries that were restricted. Now it's free buffet. I mean, you can go wherever fuck you want. I mean, there's no more VPN thing or whatever. It's like, go for it. Frontal. So that was my 2 cents on the Evo problem we got, because I definitely think we have an evolution problem.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alexander. Really interesting. I'm looking forward to see you in a couple of hours here as well. Should be fun today. Karolina, Nico, closing out today. Any comments here to summarize the discussion today?
Well, I see Peter wanted to add something to Alexandre, so maybe we'll let him speak quickly.
Yeah, thanks, Karolina. I just wanted to say that Alexandre is really right to flag Curacao and the upcoming regulation push there. I happen to know from very close that the island has been instructed by let's say the government of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to get their act together and to become a lot more stricter on online gambling, because most operators that operate under a Curacao license are basically pestering the Dutch market and are seen as a nuisance. So this is something to be watching very closely, because there's going to be a clampdown one way or the other within the next 9 to 12 months, I think.
Great, thank you for that, Peter Paul.
Yeah, can I just say here, sorry, very quickly, but if that clamps down on Curacao from the Dutch market, fine. Every guy with a Curacao license is going to go and get a Kanawaki license or a Montenegro license. You're not solving the problem. The problem's just shifting further along. So perhaps the Dutch market need to hurry up and regulate properly and make it an acceptable jurisdiction like the Danish one, and let good actors come in and operate within their license regulations, as opposed to trying to just cut off the legs and push the problem along to someone else.
I'm not disagreeing, Tim. It wasn't my policy. It came straight from Parliament. But this is likely to happen over the next year.
Interesting. Will be good to follow. Karolina.
If I can wrap up with a slight change of subject, and for those of you guys who follow sometimes my appearances, I'm also quite big on productivity and lifestyle, and I wanted to specifically thank Alexandre, who sent me a little gift yesterday, to a great surprise of my husband, which was a wearable Aura ring. And to my surprise, yesterday, throughout the whole day of working from home, I realized I made less than 100 steps in the whole day. So I just wanted to say to everyone, I highly recommend that you guys look into your activity while we're all sitting in lockdowns, because thanks to that little device, it made me realize that the fake commute and the getting up to the house and getting some movement is really, really important to keeping your mind sane. And I just wanted to recommend to everyone, maybe from now on you take this iGaming Next Breakfast on the go and you use it as your daily dose of activity. I managed to complete my 2,000 steps during this session today. So thanks, Alexandre, for making me realize the sedentary lifestyle I was leading for the last couple of months. And I just wanted to give everyone a recommendation to move a bit more. And if you have wearable devices, this is a great way to realize it really fast.
Thank you, Karolina. I'm happy you like it. Actually, I think we offered around 100 of these devices to first our staff and our partners. Our staff, because we want to see the impact of things that we're putting in place within the company on their health. And we just started, but I see it as a very exciting project. Now, Karolina, 100 steps or even 2,000 steps, it's 10,000 steps. It's 10,000 steps per day. You're far. You really, really need to walk. It's very, 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 very important.
I know, and from now on, you've made this realization for me, and it's all changed from now on. It's ridiculous. 100 steps is a couple of staircases up and down. So
that's cool. That's really, really cool. And then you'll see that there are many other things, and I highly recommend the Oura Ring to everyone. You have your HRV, which is heart rate variability, which really shows you how your body recovered. You can see the impact of a late meal, of alcohol drinking, not drinking enough water. You can test and see the biofeedback of this device. And just to close, we are actually, I know we're a gaming company, but we are actually developing a wearable. It should be live in an alpha version at the end of this year, beginning of next year. And there's something we want to put in place is, as we have the data from gamblers in real time, we want to track them and see the impact of the gambling session and type of gambling session on their biometrics.
Sorry,
Karolina, you're cutting.
Talked about it many years
This happens when you move around too much.
Yeah, that's what happens when you move too fast. Yeah, that's cool. Karolina, we have
Maybe
some
we can pick it up
connection
another
issues
studying in psychometrics.
with you here, but
Yeah, exactly.
all right. Yeah,
Sorry about that. Ignore me.
There we
My
go,
signal
Now
is
it's better.
too strong.
I was just saying that
biometrics. I was just saying biometrics and psychometrics would be a subject I would love to welcome at another session and discuss how this could be used in gambling.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are losing you again, Karolina, here, but absolutely agree. Biometrics is a subject on its own that is interesting to discuss. Brilliant. Yeah, sorry for cutting you off here, Karolina. Still a little bit connection issues, but Bogdan, any closing thoughts from you as well? I see that you're eager to chime in here as well.
Yeah, actually, just my 5 cents into this, what Alexandre and Karolina said. I'm pretty happy that somebody has raised that topic into the discussion, because I realized a couple of years ago that actually, while working in the gambling industry, I've been sitting on my chair for 14, 16 hours straight sometimes in order to deliver the results, and working on various different projects, which obviously affected my life and affected largely. Fortunately, I found my something, little thing, which is the indoor rover. And regardless what kind of activity you go into, you are into, I would strongly recommend that actually you find the time within your life to sacrifice this 1 hour or 2 hours per day. Maybe 2 hours will be hard for some, but I'm pretty goddamn 100% sure that you can find this 1 hour and give back a little bit to your body and to your health, because this is something what we really, really need. And I can tell you from the experience, I had a problem with my back because of the sitting position. These problems are gone completely. I don't know what is the back pain from the couple of years now. And I can only recommend, and if the technology help us, we have the Apple Watches, we have the Overring, this what you, Alexandre, say, but we have a lot of other technologies which can actually support us in this, and I strongly urge you to do so. It's something what we can do to our body, and in a healthy body there is a healthy brain. So that is something what we should be consider and have it as one of our daily habits. So that's all from me.
So such wise words, Bogdan.
Well, I for one am definitely standing up here now, running in circles in my apartment here for half an hour until my next meeting. So thanks for the motivational boost here, guys. I appreciate that a lot. Guys, it's been a fantastic power hour breakfast chat here today. It's been really great to hear people's opinions chiming in, as per always. Very, very nice to hear everyone's being so open and sharing their deep knowledge. So really thank you for that, everyone who comes on stage, and thanks everyone who listened in today. As we mentioned here in the beginning of the session today, don't miss out on the iGaming Power Hour, which is taking place tomorrow at 3 p.m. CET. You can register for free. Just go to any of our iGaming socials and you'll find the links to there. Our very own co-moderator here, Nico, is hosting a session on the German regulation and the 5.3% tax and the implications that will have on the German market tomorrow. So definitely don't miss out. So with that, I'd love to wish you all a great day ahead. Stay safe, have fun. Make sure to not miss out on the 10,000 steps today, and have a great day. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.